Welcome to the Golf League Network's video tutorial on the maximum hole score and hole score missing area of your league parameter setup. You will see that we are going to our league parameter setup screen, and you will find this option at the very bottom of the page in the next to the last box entitled Maximum Hole Score Missing. This area deals with how you want the Golf League Network to handle the situations in your league where a player does not finish a hole for reasons such as they picked up, or if your league has a rule that you cannot take more than a certain number of strokes on a hole. You will see that there are 4 options here for you to choose from. At this time we will explain each option. Note that where this comes into play in the Golf League Network system is in the score entry area when you are entering your hole-by-hole scores. Our first option here is missing hole scores not allowed, and then you see in parentheses, all must be filled in. When you choose this option, you are saying that every player must hole out. And if you select this, then you must enter a numerical value for a score for each hole. For the next 3 options that deal with allowing a pickup, know that for these options to work correctly, when you are entering scores in score entry and you come to a hole where there is no score, you will then enter the letter X for that hole. Every time the system sees an X, it will then follow whatever parameter you have chosen and then automatically put that number in with a designation of the number followed by an X. Note that for leagues that tell their players that when they reach a certain number of strokes, let's say 10 for example, to write down a 10 and circle it. For this option to work correctly, you will need to enter the letter X and not the number 10, as the system sees a real 10 differently than one that was awarded for a pickup. This is very important in the Golf League Network scoring of matches, as in an individual match, the point or points for a hole with an X indicating a pickup will be awarded fully to the opponent who completed the hole. If both players picked up on the hole and X's were entered for both players, this would result in the tie of that hole. This is a good time to stop and explain how the Golf League Network handles missing hole scores when a player on a team of 2 or more picks up. After consulting with many leagues over the years, the Golf League Network will not automatically give a loss of hole or match in any team competition. The system does not penalize a team for a player's actions. Depending on your league rules, you might have to deal with this scenario by using the manual points feature. So now let's look at each option to see how they work when you enter an X for a missing hole score. Our second option is missing hole scores filled in by par. And when we click on this option, you will see 4 boxes for you to enter whatever value you wish for each particular hole of that par. In our example, which is the system default, each hole here is set to a bogey. Know that this has nothing to do with what scores are posted back to the player for handicap calculation, just for scoring and displaying purposes in your matches. Many leagues do use the number 10 for any pickup, so if this is the rule that your league uses, this is the option you would choose, and then set every box with the number 10. Our third option works in the exact same manner as the second option we just discussed, only instead of a set number, this one will be a variable as it looks at each player's net par for said hole of the pickup occurring. For those of you not familiar with net par, let me briefly explain. Net par takes the par of the hole and then adds to it the number of strokes a player would get on that hole with his handicap. Let's say you are a 9 handicap for 9 holes, so you would get a stroke a hole, meaning your net par will always be a bogey on each hole. If someone is an 18 handicap for 9 holes, then they get 2 strokes per hole, so their net par will always be a double bogey. Net par is simply par of the hole plus whatever strokes that player would be getting on that hole. Here you'll also see the same 4 boxes where you can add additional strokes if you wish. While the system default is a 0, the rule of thumb in using net par is usually to add an additional 2 strokes. So if you wish to enter an additional strokes on top of the player's net par, simply fill in these boxes. Now our last option is missing hole scores filled in by average over par. Let me explain a bit more detail how this option works. The system is going to look at the completed holes for the round being played. That being said, users might initially think it will look at the player's average on that particular hole over all the times he has played that hole. But no, it only looks at the round score data from the round being played with the picked up hole. And think about it. Due to things like weather conditions, you want the average to be obtained from the current round. Let's again use an example to explain. Say a thunderstorm comes up with one more hole to play. So our player has played 8 holes, and when we add up his score, he currently is at a total of 45 strokes. The par is 36 for this 9, with the 9th hole being a par 4. So par through 8 holes is 32. We would subtract 32 from 45 and get 13, which then we divide by 8 for the number of completed holes to get our average on each hole. And in this case, it is 1.625 per hole over par. Look right here, we have a little rounding area of what to do when we get to a decimal. In this case of a 0.5, we would round up to a 2, meaning that when an X is entered for the player in our example on the 9th hole, the system will give this player a 6X on that par 4 finishing hole. In this example of a thunderstorm where the whole group could not finish the hole, each player's score would most likely be different as it goes by each of their averages to this point in the round. But that hole would be tied or halved since all players picked up. Now, we hope this information has helped you understand how missing hole scores works. Now, if you do have further questions about this area or any of the other areas within the Golf League network, you can simply click on our support button found in 2 places, on our top taskbar or right here under your name on the home screen. By clicking on this button, it takes you directly to our support dashboard. Here, you can do one of 2 things. You can click Contact Support, and you can write us a brief message about what your problem or issue is. And you can then say if you'd like us to reply by the dashboard and email or to call you at this number. All of our support issues, whether we receive them by phone or the dashboard, are answered in the order received. And thank you for choosing the Golf League Network to manage your league.